you grew up in a small town in southern Brazil.
Yeah.
I love Brazil. I had not heard of the town you're from. That's how small it is.
Yeah.
I've studied Brazil. You left at 14.
Yeah.
And were, traveling the world from then on.
Yeah, I left at 14. I moved to Japan. I lived in Japan for 3 months when I was 14. And then...
What was that? Just going from a small town in southern Brazil to suddenly being in Japan.
I think my mom did an incredible job as the guardian that she was for all of us, because I felt very independent at 14 for some reason. At 14 sometimes, I don't know if you guys feel that way, but at 14 you feel like you know everything. For some reason, 14 years old is that age where you're like, I know, I can take care of myself. So I was living out in the world, and I knew how to cook and clean and all that stuff because I was doing all that at home, sharing the house chores with my 5 sisters. And so when I left, I felt like I already knew how to do that, so I felt like that's covered. And then I discovered, I was very naive though, so I had to learn pretty quickly, but I saw a lot of different crazy stuff happening around me. And then I realized, well, now I'm out in the world and I have to be really...
Was your mom with you?
No.
Wow.
My mom was with my 5 sisters, so I left home alone at 14, and I never went back. But at 16, I moved to New York, and I didn't speak a word of English or Japanese, so it was pretty interesting living in Japan without speaking English or Japanese. I just said yes to yes. So I felt like that would be easy, and then at 16, I moved to...
She's so agreeable. She's so nice.
Yeah, I guess I'm not that agreeable today. So I think, I'm like, okay, let me think about it. But I didn't speak English, so I just didn't want them to think that, I guess people always thought mothers were like, dumb, and I didn't want to kind of let them think that of me. So I was like, maybe I'll just pretend I know English, even though I don't. So then just living alone since I'm 14 and being out in the world is like I said, I didn't go to high school, but I feel like I have a diploma on the school of life in so many ways, because I think when you go out in the world and you figure it out, you learn pretty quickly, when your parents are not there to protect you, how to make decisions, and you have to be, you have to take accountability for your decisions because there is nobody there to protect you, so.
The other thing you speak out a lot on is in the environment. And
oh, yeah.
You were backstage talking about Mother Earth, which,
We are all her children. I always say, it's funny to me. I've been working with the UN on trying my best to talk about what's happening with our environment, and I always think it's kind of funny how here we are destroying the very thing that provides us with life. Our food, our air, our home, everything we have comes from Mother Earth. And yet we feel like we can just keep taking and exploiting natural resources like they're never ending. But there's only an amount of water, there's only an amount of natural resources, and we are just kind of going through them like there is no tomorrow, and you see cities like São Paulo, for example, who, Brazil is one of the, between Brazil and the continent of Africa, the largest places of fresh water in the world, and we had a drought, Cape Town was without water, and I think it's just so much is happening, and because everything is going so fast, and everybody's saying, oh, we have to use this because, for progress. I'm like, what kind of progress are you gonna have when you don't have any more,
Do you find that your meditation practice, because I think a lot of people, when they think about meditation, we talked, some of the earlier speakers talked about this as well, think about meditation as being just something that's very inward and focused on themselves. Do you find your meditation practice also makes you more kind of outward focused on the world?
I think it just gives you a different kind of awareness. I think you see things from a different place. I think everything slows down and you become more conscious of everything, because when you meditate, what you do is like you become silent. And I think especially in our society today, everything has happened so fast. I remember when I was a kid, there was no cell phones. Like, even when I moved to Japan, I had to use the calling cards to call my mom and be like, you got $1 left. And I called my mom like once a month from Japan, because there was no, 1994, 1995. And I think, someone calls the house and you're like, wait a minute, I'll get the message from my mom. I remember when the phones came out and they had actually the message that you can leave a message. Before that, you couldn't. So you had like a notepad and a pencil next to the phone to leave the message. And I think it was in a way so great because, people who could do their job and then could go home and they would have conversations at the dinner table with their family, and they would, if people couldn't catch them at work, they would have to wait to the next day. And now I think with this kind of speed up process where you're available 24/7, I think is really creating a lot more anxiety. So I think even more so it's important to have the moments, if, like you said, a few times a day. I don't think you need to go for like 7, a Vipassana or like 5 days. Maybe sometimes you do if you have a specific thing you're dealing with, but if it would be good if every day you can check in, if it's 2 minutes in a car ride, if it's 5 minutes in the morning when you wake up, if it's before you go to bed, if it's before an important meeting, just to take a moment, go inward, focus on your breath, deep breathing, and just allow yourself to to kind of decompress. I think is essential to be able to deal with the amount of pressure we have in our society today. I don't know how else, I couldn't do it without it. I tell you that much.